It's a case that has haunted Oklahoma for nearly 5 decades. Lori Farmer, Michele Guse, and Denise Milner were raped and murdered in Mays County in 1977. As News 9's Reagan Ledbetter reports, DNA evidence in the Girl Scout murders is finally giving the victims' families answers.
9 years ago, Lori Farmer's parents sat down with Mays County Sheriff Mike Reed and asked him to take a new look at the case. They had no idea what he and OSBI agents would uncover.
The people in Locust Grove believe this is the worst thing that has ever happened to the town.
And what kind of a person would do something like that?
We obviously know that it's a person who doesn't belong to what we accept as the normal human race.
The Girl Scout murders are a story without an ending.
A request turned into a 9-year mission to find out the truth about what happened to the Girl Scouts who were raped and murdered at Camp Scott, and put an end to the hundreds of conspiracy theories. On June 12, 1977, 8-year-old Lori Farmer, 9-year-old Michele Guse, and 10-year-old Denise Milner set off for camp, but never came home. There was an arrest, a trial, and an acquittal. Sheriff Mike Reed grew up here in Mays County and was just a boy when the murders shocked the conscience of this small community. He never imagined years later he'd be the one asked to find answers.
And I give him my word that I didn't know what I could do, but I would look at it.
A year after Reed started looking at the case, he went to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in Virginia, where 23 of the best homicide investigators, FBI behavioral analysts, and profilers in the world make up a cold case board. And they all spent a month independently combing through every document and every piece of evidence. Each and every one of them had come to the same conclusion. The only person to commit these murders was Jean Leroy Hart.
Those people who don't live in Oklahoma, don't have any thought about who it should be, arrived at the same conclusion that Mike already had.
Few people have more at stake in this case than Sherry Farmer, since her daughter Lori was one of those murdered. She finally let herself believe they would get to the truth when agents suggested Reed have some evidence retested for DNA. That testing would cost $30,000, money the sheriff's office didn't have. But citizens in Mays County stepped up and raised every penny of it, and that evidence was tested in 2019. And the results have not been released until now.
There is not a piece of DNA that we've not been able to identify.
Reed says the DNA shows there's no other suspect it could be other than Hart, and eliminates every other suspect ever brought up. Hart was an escapee on the run when he was arrested for the murders in 1978 after a 10-month-long manhunt, but a jury found him not guilty in 1979. But DNA evidence was not available then. Plus, Reed's conclusions go far beyond DNA.
If there was absolutely no DNA, just the information that I know now that was not allowed to be showed to the jury, there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Jean Hart is the person who committed these crimes.
The jury never heard that in 1966, Hart kidnapped 2 pregnant women at gunpoint, drove them to the middle of nowhere in Mays County, tied them up, raped them repeatedly, covered them in brush, and left them for dead.
Textbook serial rapist. You're convicted of that, and you're paroled in 2.5 years and back out on the road.
Reed says he gets at least 1 phone call a month from someone saying they know who the killer is, and there are plenty of people going on social media spouting theories with no truth to them. Reed says one of the big myths people have bought into is there were 2 different knots used to tie up the girls, meaning 2 people were involved. But Reed says he's proven that to be false.
One is a single overhand knot. Bingo. Stick your finger up there. So if I attach that to that, now it is a single half hitch. The exact same pattern. Single overhand knot. Now it is a double half hitch. It's really not 2 different knots. It's the same exact pattern.
After all his research and going through the evidence over and over, he says he can disprove every wild theory out there with actual facts. Except one thing, which is there may have been someone involved after the fact because of a bloody footprint found in one of the tents. But he believes it's logical to assume that was someone innocently walking into the scene.
They could have stepped in there and then realized, oh my gosh, I got blood on my shoes.
Going through our grief, there was a focus. And the focus was there will be justice for Lori and Michele and Denise.
Reagan Ledbetter reporting tonight. Gene Leroy Hart died in prison about 2 months after being acquitted. He was serving time for the 1966 kidnapping and rape convictions, plus his escape.